Heyo, heyo, and welcome to today. Yeah, as you know, the Young Thug trial is on a bit of a hold. That was a bit disappointing, but because Mr. Shannon Stillwell was stabbed in jail last night. So, as disappointing as that was, that freed up some time for the other cases I am following, which coincidentally is the Adelson case. And today was Donna Adelson's pre-trial hearing, emergency motion hearing, and something else hearing. Christine, am I doing this trial when it goes live? It depends on the Young Thug trial. Because as for now, the Young Thug trial has priority, but it depends when the trial actually starts and stuff like that. But thank you for the questions. Hello, Sunny Tanner. She's going to a restaurant because Donna and Charlie can't. And Wim got the notification in less than 2 minutes after the start. Nice! That's an improvement. I still have a cold. My voice is a bit hoarse. Sorry. So bear with me. My voice may or may not last the entire stream, but I got a nice throat spray from girlfriend that is supposed to help with that. And hello everybody who is here. I see Gillian, Amateur Ironclass, Michael Burke, Gigi, my first and best moderator, Gigi. Everybody say hi to Gigi. Christine, Honey, Sunny, Nathan, Totgaff, Will Call, and all the others. I cannot say hello to the people on Rumble because Rumble is currently a bit down. Oh, hi Dave. If you have the time, you have the link. Lynn Dalton. Hi, Lynn Dalton. Good to see you. Good to see you. But Christine, if you want to stream that trial when it happens, go right ahead. Nobody's stopping you. Absolutely nobody. Good luck to you if you choose to do that. Best of luck to you. We are here for the Donna Adelson arraignment, emergency hearing, pre-trial release hearing. This, I thought this would be a 10-minute deal in blah, 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 blah. And let's see after Christmas what's going on. And that's not exactly what happened. So, let's go and listen. All right. Oh, hold on. Let's go and listen. And where is the... Let's do this one. We can't be without Mr. Jingles. All right. Let's go. I thought I had a timestamp correct. Mr. Jingles is out in the living room sleeping.
All right, we're here this afternoon in State of Florida versus Donna Adelson, 2023 CF 3226. Counsel of record as to each party may make their appearances.
Georgia Kappelman and Sarah Catherine Dugan for the state.
Marisol Descalzo on behalf of Donna Adelson, who's present in court and seated.
No worries, Valhalla. Hey, are you free?
Mr. Pimentel, Mr. Toomey, go ahead.
Send you the link.
Greg Toomey, Your Honor, for both the Sheriff's Office and, yes, sir, the medical provider in jail.
Sheriff's Office, General Counsel James Simmons.
All right. For everyone that is observing on Zoom, please do not interfere with the hearing. Of course, you may observe as to everything that takes place. Mr. Scalzo, I've reviewed your emergency motion to enjoin the jail. Is there any further argument or testimony that you wish to take in support of your motion?
Your Honor, I'll just add to supplement to my motion, which was filed last week, that we are now on day 22 of direct observation. Mrs. Adelson continues unable to participate in her defense. She's not permitted any papers. I cannot mail her anything. I did have a call with her on Friday, but only because Mrs. Kappelman facilitated it for me. And on that call, it was not a private call. Ms. Adelson was forced to put me on speakerphone with guards listening. There is just no way that Mrs. Adelson can prepare for her defense in this manner.
Okay, that's interesting. Sorry. Now, she is on watch because, as you might know, in a call with Charlie, Charlie called her from jail, or vice versa, I don't care. And where she more or less told him the plans to either I will end myself or we will disappear to a country without extradition agreement. Now, as the state, they have a responsibility to protect their defendant from harming themselves or other people harming the defendant, which should, going back to the Young Thug trial, well, they didn't protect one of the defendants from getting stabbed. So good for you in Georgia. Good work, really good work. Slow clap to Georgia prison system. And those restrictions, now 22 days might, that's long. Not really. Depends on the observation, who observes, and what is being done meanwhile. But spending 22 days in jail is not by any stretch an absolute hindering, in my opinion, of preparing the defense. The defense attorney can do a lot of things without her defendant present. But it is somewhat disturbing that officers were listening in on this particular call, because they should be arranged for guards to look at her through a glass door without hearing. They can open the door, and if she tries anything. Let's continue.
All right. There is one question that I had specifically as to this issue. And I noticed within your pleading that you had quotes from your client and also some observations of what has been taking place with the correctional staff. Are you alleging that you have no ability to access your client, or that there is limited contact with your client?
No, Your Honor, I'm not saying that there is no ability. The direct observations that are contained within my motion were not observed by myself, but Daniel Rashbaum, Charlie Adelson's attorney, had a visit with Charlie Adelson, and he was able.
Daniel Rashbaum was Charlie Adelson's trial attorney, as you remember. He had to recuse himself from representing Donna and Charlie Adelson because of Charlie Adelson's trial and arrest and stuff like that, because of conflict of interest. Now, it's interesting that he visited Donna Adelson because he still has an obligation towards Charlie. So that's interesting. But that's besides the point.
Able to swap it out for Miss Donna Adelson the week of, I think, November 27th or 28th. So he was able to have that conversation with her in person.
Hey. Hey, everybody. Jingles is here. Hello, Jingles. Are you doing good? Yeah. My personal neck warmer. Let's continue.
I've had a conversation with her, like I said, over the phone. I have been told that I can do a 60-minute increment visit with her in person. There is no video visitation ability. So I would say that my ability to meet with her is limited. It's not non-existent. However, my ability to share, for example, discovery, paperwork, the motion I filed with Ms. Adelson is non-existent because she's not permitted to have paper.
Very well.
In most other trials and states that I've covered, in pre-trial meetings with clients, they are usually allowed, okay, go in, you can have a tablet, you can share as much as you can with your client. I mean, you don't have to have pure paper. So that's not really, in my opinion, something that is a hindering. It's just inconvenient. It might be inconvenient, but it's not a hindering, especially since Donna said she might self-harm or end herself. Oh, Gigi, the Christmas ornament ended yesterday because they can no longer deliver it before Christmas. But in the works is Jingle's other holiday things. We have Easter coming up. We have weird Swedish holidays coming up. We have a lot of holidays coming up. So there are other Jingles merch in the store. But the Christmas thingies sadly had to end on Sunday because they couldn't deliver before Christmas. Sorry.
Pick up the other aspect of this in a moment, actually, which deals with the level of confinement and what is going on with it. Ms. Kappelman, does the state have any argument to make concerning this matter?
The state would defer to Mr. Toomey, who's here to speak on those matters that I think you're addressing right now.
Very well. Mr. Pimentel, Mr. Toomey.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon.
As far as this particular issue goes, there is no impediment to her speaking with her lawyer, seeing her lawyer, over and above using a tablet. The tablet has a headset that can be used as a ligature. Otherwise, she's free to enter the jail. Chief Mack is here. He's assured me that they can have a visit. I don't understand the problem that is perceived, but there is no impediment to an attorney-client visitation. Am I correct?
The first question, we'll have Chief Mack give some testimony so that way we have a clear record. But the level of confinement and also the current restrictions that are in place, are these because there were at some point statements alluding to self-harm during the jail phone calls?
And at booking here. when she was booked into the jail here, she made a statement that she wanted to die. Now, before she was arrested in Miami, she also had a phone call with her son, who's obviously in jail here. 25-minute phone call. I personally listened to it. She very clearly spoke about a plan to kill herself using sleeping pills.
One moment.
And there Donna Adelson goes, starting to mouth off. And yeah, this might be a reoccurring event. Let's just say that.
Ms. Adelson, please keep your comments to yourself. Let your lawyer argue on your behalf.
Spoke of a plan to kill herself if she could not escape the country before arrest. That was known to the folks in this jail when she got here. That's why she's on watch. The mental health professionals see her every day. They are not satisfied that she's safe, and it's up to them to decide it.
I'll give you an opportunity to respond, Mr. Scalzo. Mr. Toomey, one more thing before we move on into taking Chief Mack's testimony. Is there a specific procedure that the jail has for dealing with inmates with a threat of self-harm? Chief Mack, let me swear you in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, sir.
If you can explain to me what the procedure is, Chief Mack, and from there, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Pimentel, I'll allow you to direct Chief Mack on any other matters you believe to be pertinent. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Anytime anyone makes a statement or we get evidence of someone wanting to actually harm themselves, they're placed on direct observation. On direct observation, they receive a smock as well as a suicide blanket. And they're placed in an isolated room. It's just direct observation is what it really is. So we have a staff member outside the door that actually watches them around the clock, make sure they don't cause any harm to themselves.
When are the individuals who are under this status reevaluated for going back to general population?
That's done daily with yes care personnel.
Mr. Toomey, if you have any further examination for Chief Mack, I'll allow you to do so at this time.
Very briefly. Chief, is there a way for someone that's on suicide watch to have a direct visit with their lawyer?
Yes, we will pull the individual from the particular area that they're housed in and put them in an office with just the attorney. And
Are there any remote capabilities for someone who is in the suicide or close watch observation wing?
remote capabilities,
As far as phone calls, Zoom, tablets, things of that nature?
that person will be escorted to an office where we can actually see through the door, a glass window, and the officer will stand on the outside and just watch them from the outside.
And this is related to any concerns you have about self-harm?
Yes, that's because of we just keep constant view, keep them in vision, make sure that they don't do anything or pick up anything they can take back to the room and harm themselves later.
Mr. Scalzo, do you have an examination for Chief Mack?
I do, Your Honor.
Yeah, this is this is a standard practice even here, Sweden, socialist paradise, that if you threaten to end yourself, there's a whole other line of protocol that kicks in. With, first, remove everything that can be used against as a self-harming device. And it's not nice. It's not convenient. It's quite disturbing. But it's also in a protection to the defendant. Even if she made that as a manipulation tactics against Charlie, or say she used, I don't know, speculating, it's not the first time she used those words. because she seemed to be a very manipulative person. But the prison system and the court system can't take those chances that it was a joke. So, boom, these are the protocols. And I'm not entirely happy about, well, we can open door with the guard outside. Well, then you can still listen in. There should be better things. Oh, hello. Hello, Mr. Jingles. And for you who don't know, Charlie Adelson's sentencing is tomorrow, and it's scheduled for, I think, 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. And unless the something spectacular happens in the Young Thug trial, I will be streaming that live tomorrow. Ow, you asshole. Cat. I will be streaming that live tomorrow. Okay, but back to the Donna Adelson.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Would you like me to proceed from here?
That's fine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Chief Mackey, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Mack.
Chief Mack. Chief Mack. Have you listened to this 25-minute call that Ms. Adelson had before she was arrested?
Not in its entirety. I actually heard the portion where she was speaking of wanting to do a pact with her husband. I'm assuming that's who individual was.
Chief Mack, do you participate in the decision on whether Ms. Adelson needs to remain on direct observation?
No, ma'am, that's a medical.
Okay, is the medical person that makes that decision a psychiatrist or another person?
That's Dr. Sapp.
So Dr. Sapp, is Dr. Sapp a psychiatrist?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if Dr. Sapp has examined Ms. Adelson?
She advised me that she spoke with her on different occasions or been around the area while another clinician was talking with her.
Jeez.
Well, how is Ms.
Cat butthole in?
Dr. Zapp?
Sapp.
Zapp. How is Dr. Zapp? Zapp with a C, I'm sorry?
If you could spell it, Chief Mack.
SAPP. Sapp.
Zapp. So how is Dr. Zapp supposed to determine whether Mrs. Adelson can be removed from direct observation if she doesn't evaluate her?
From what I was advised, she has evaluated her and also other members of her staff.
Chief Mack, would it surprise you if Dr. Zapp has not evaluated Mrs. Adelson at all?
Sorry. Sorry. This line of questioning, would it surprise you if? Now, if defense attorney doesn't have paperwork to back that up, that's interesting. If she goes by the word of her client, maybe not do that. Just maybe. But the question is open-ended because she actually doesn't say that she was never evaluated. She says, would it surprise you if I... That's lawyer speak. Yes, I know, Dave, you love using would it surprise you because sometimes it gets people off guard. I get, oh, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Because as of now, he's only referring to what he's been told by the psychiatrist. So, but let's see what he answers.
I couldn't say that I wouldn't think that she would tell me something that wasn't true.
Do you have a report from Dr. Zapp establishing, I'm sorry.
I wouldn't take, because of HIPAA laws, I don't necessarily get involved with medical paperwork of that nature.
Chief Mack, did you come to court today knowing that you were going to testify about whether or not Mrs. Adelson was on direct observation or not?
Allowed hearsay?
I know I was supposed to be here, but the extent, I can't say I was privileged to told that I was going to actually testify, but I was prepared if I did.
And Chief Mack, knowing that you had to come here today possibly to testify, did you inquire how many times Dr. Zapp had met with Mrs. Adelson?
I did not, because they actually see everyone that's on direct daily, and it's more than just Miss Adelson.
Chief Mack, are you aware that Dr. Zapp has never evaluated or met with Mrs. Adelson?
That is a very strong statement. And she better back that up. Let's see if she does.
I can only go what I've been told by Miss Sapp.
Chief Mack, are you aware that Dr. Pugh is the only psychiatrist that has seen Mrs. Adelson, and that was on November 27th?
I didn't get that information as to who saw her. All I needed to know, or all I need to be privileged to, is that she needed to be on direct observation.
Chief Mack, do you have a list of all the times that Mrs. Adelson has been evaluated to determine whether she can be removed from direct observation?
Like I previously said, the only time I know they see them daily. And with that, I don't get any paperwork because I'm not a medical professional. I'm just making sure that her safety is taken care of.
Of course, Chief Mack, but just to be clear, I'm not asking whether you've seen any paperwork. I'm asking, in preparation for coming here today, were you advised how many times she had visits?
No.
Did you ask how many times she had been visited?
Not just knowing that she's being seen daily. I don't ask who actually saw her or what the conversation was pertaining to.
Chief Mack, if she is being visited daily, would there be a report of those visits?
Yes, it should be notes that they take.
To the
Daily.
daily.
Right.
Okay. And Chief Mack, if what you're saying is what you were told is correct, there should be a report from Dr. Zapp and from whatever clinician is meeting her daily, right? About the evaluation.
Yes, I would assume it is.
And Chief Mack, did you know that Mrs. Adelson was actually arrested in Miami?
Yes.
Okay. And did you know that she spent some time in jail in Miami?
Yes.
And did you know that she was there for about 5 days before she was transported to Leon County?
Should be something like that, yes.
And were you aware that she was at a county jail, very similar to the Leon County jail?
Well, I've never been to Miami's facility, so I can't tell you exactly what they do or what their policies are.
Okay. Chief Mack, were you aware that Mrs. Adelson was also on direct observation in Miami-Dade County for a period of time while she was there?
No, I didn't actually see any paperwork of it.
And Chief Mack, did anybody tell you, any of your clinicians tell you that actually Mrs. Adelson was evaluated by the same psychiatrist over a period of 72 hours in Miami, and she was released to general population?
Now that's interesting. That she was evaluated and released to Gen Pop. That's interesting. Then, if correct, then I don't understand why they were restarting unless the state has something indicating that she restated any self-harm wishes. Old line read. A Miami lawyer with a New York attitude will get her buried in Tallahassee. Just ask Charlie. Well, Charlie, I think Charlie's lawyer did the best he could with the absolute horse shit he was dealt. And this lawyer might be in the same situation. But if she had this evaluation, I don't understand why this happened again. But let's continue and see what happened.
I heard something of it, but I don't necessarily, I go by our contract provider when we doing anything in the inmate health.
Who told you that she might have been evaluated in Miami and released to general population?
It was just something that was said. I think she may have spoken to an officer and said it.
Chief Mack, if she would have spoken to a clinician about that, you wouldn't know about that, right? Because that's HIPAA?
I wouldn't have known about it because I didn't speak to my clinicians. I just speak with them about Ms. Adelson in general.
What general conversations are you having about Mrs. Adelson with your clinicians, Chief Mack?
It's just how they evaluated her and where she is in her evaluation.
Okay.
If she's going to be released on a step down program or anything of that nature.
Okay, can you tell us generally what you have been told? What was her evaluation like? When will she be stepped down? What's happening?
That's something that they will tell me when that occurs, in the way of when she feels as though that Ms. Adelson is at that stage in the process. She will inform me of the step down process.
Who is she?
That's either of the Yes Care personnel. Normally, it's Dr. Sapp, Dr. Pugh, or Ms. Smith, Ms. Richardson, Tori Richardson.
Okay, so it's Miss Richardson, Dr. Pugh, and Dr. Zapp. Those are the three people you're communicating with about Mrs. Adelson's treatment or step down process?
Periodically, I have a captain that actually is over medical, but I go through medical frequently.
Okay. Chief Mack, what did you do to prepare for today's hearing?
I actually just looked at some of the notes, even read the allegations concerning what Ms. Adelson was actually, I think it was more your allegations of what occurred in the facility.
What notes did you review before you came here, Chief Mack?
Other than looking at event logs, pretty much that was the extent of it.
What are event logs?
Event logs, what the officers said, that actually on direct observation and documents what's happening while she's on direct observation.
Has there been anything that stood out to you in those event logs that the officers are leaving behind?
Ma'am.
Mr. Scalzo, before this continues on, I want this to remain focused on the subject matter of the motion itself. This is not a deposition. If you have further examination, I'll allow you to finish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Chief Mack, are you aware that the only person that has been communicating or evaluating Mrs. Adelson since the one time on November 27th that Dr. Pugh saw her is Miss Richardson?
Richardson. I'm not aware of who all. I know Ms. Pugh has seen her once, twice. I'm not sure, but it's just I'm getting information from my HSA and Dr. Sapp.
Interesting.
So to go back, you're saying Dr. Zapp has personally told you that Dr. Zapp has visited Mrs. Adelson?
She told me she was in the area with Ms. Adelson. I don't know, because I wasn't present, as to what occurred during that meeting.
So what does it mean she's in the area? That she was around?
Yes, ma'am. That's what she advised me, that she was around.
Did you interpret that to mean that she evaluated Mrs. Adelson or that she was around Mrs.
I
Adelson?
interpreted it as she being present in the area.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Mr. Toomey, and I redirect.
Perhaps two. Chief Mack, Ms. Richardson, is she a mental health counselor?
Yes, sir.
All right. If there were notes regarding the interaction between mental health and the defendant in this case, where would those notes be?
I'm going to be in a medical file.
You recognize this document as her medical file. It's moving around a bit. It's been a day.
Yes, I would say that was a medical file.
All right. Do you know if anybody's asked for these besides me?
No, sir.
That's all, Judge.
Chief Mack,
Oh, that kind of ruined it for Miss Descalzo. Have anybody but this prosecutor asked for her medical file? Nope. That kind of ruined it. She had a good line of questioning, but then it fell apart. Evaluate is interesting if this is her choice of a lawyer. This might just be for the arraignment. And later on, we will see which counsel she chooses. But I would assume she would try to pick a local lawyer for this. But then again, Mrs. Adelson, Donna Adelson, is a bit of a manipulative. I can't go to say she's narcissistic, but she do show some of these tendencies and has shown that being nobody can catch me and I will just go away somewhere. She was, practically what Donna Adelson did was throwing her kids away and run. Her and Harvey were about to go to Vietnam, a country with no extradition to the United States. But she was also foolish enough to tell Charlie over a prison call. And I can't for my life understand why, because she have to have been advised by lawyer that remember those calls are recorded, right? Nobody can be that, but but apparently she thought it would be good to spend 25 minutes talking to her in jail son about her plans. And for you who don't know, that can and will be used against her in a court of law. Whoopsie doopsie. Oh.
May take your seat. Mr. Toomey, the place I did want to start with there being a procedure in place is to assure that this is not random or arbitrary. Is there a procedure with regard to inmates with self-harm concerns or direct observation?
No, she and Harvey was going to go alone, leaving Wendy alone with the kids, Charlie in prison. That was her plan. So not taking Wendy and the kids with them. She was clearly going to abandon everybody to save herself. But she told Charlie over a prison call. Gigi, money won't be an issue in her choice of lawyer. No, they have a They are quite wealthy. The Adelson. Hold on while I check. Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Bum, bum, bum. Well, it says here, at the time of the ending, the Adelsons had more than 8 million combined. Now, they spent a bunch of money on Charlie's defense and other things, but I would assume that even if they only have 3 million left, that's enough for quite a good set of lawyers. Oh, really? Is she a former federal prosecutor? Okay. Now that might come in handy. I have to check. White collar criminal defense lawyer. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. She's been a lawyer since 2002. Oh. That okay. She is a bit more seasoned than I thought. I didn't know that. Hello, Jolie. Hello. Yeah, she has quite a lengthy kind of CV there. Yeah, all right. But let's continue. That was her motion, emergency motion of sorts. So yeah, the defense attorney, been a lawyer since 2002 and has been a federal prosecutor meanwhile. She is a white-collar criminal defense attorney. That's her current status, at least, over at at Tacky, Brownies, and Descalzo, PA. Okay. And they have their office in Miami, Florida. Yeah. They have a page on profiles.superlawyers.com, which incidentally is a page you pay to get on. Okay, enough of that. Let's continue.
There is. It's standard in each and every jail. It is that until a mental health counselor or another mental health provider, like a psychiatrist or psychologist, is assured that person does not possess or present a risk of self-harm, then they stay on that status. And they figure out where that status is by charting daily. A mental health counselor sees her.
Have you been able to provide a copy of either the policy or the patient file to Ms. Adelson's attorney?
I haven't been asked. I can tell you, before this motion was written, no one has asked for these medical records because I am the final arbiter in this state for this client. I decide whether the records are going out.
Whoopsie. Ooh. That's not good for the defense lawyer. Oh, that's not good. Seems like the prosecution was more prepared than Miss Descalzo. Or Mrs. I don't know if she's married or not. Interesting. Yeah, she kind of put her foot in her mouth on that one.
Well, moving on to the second issue that this raises, Mr. Scalzo, there is a very specific separation of powers issue that this poses for the court. The sheriff runs the jail, I run my courtroom. The DCAs have been fairly clear when it comes to the court essentially directing medical care, what goes on in the facility. It's basically a no-no without an actual violation of the Constitution. What is my authority to actually step in this situation and give you what you're asking for?
Your Honor, I believe that there has been a violation of the Constitution here. There is, Ms. Adelson and I have not been permitted to talk behind this glass wall that they're speaking of. The first time we spoke was Friday. She was on speakerphone, I was on speakerphone, and she was sitting with a guard seated next to her. And the only way that that call was facilitated was because Ms. Georgia Kappelman was nice enough to call the jail and arrange it. I have called the jail repeatedly over the past 22 days, begging to be permitted to either speak to Mrs. Adelson or for Mrs. Adelson to speak to me, and no one responds. As to Mr. Toomey's response that nobody has called him, nobody has asked him for records, I tried calling the general counsel's office repeatedly in the past week to try to resolve this issue. I understand what's being said today in court, and like I said in my motion, I understand that there's separation of powers, and I understand that the court is limited in what they can do in directing the jail. But I think that one thing that Your Honor can do is, you have heard that the jail, and Mr. Toomey said, he's the arbiter in the state. All jails run the same. The jail in Miami-Dade County cleared Mrs. Adelson, a psychiatrist, a mental health professional that works for the state, that works for the Department of Corrections, has said that she is not required to be on direct observation. She comes here and all of a sudden that changes. So I feel that there's some sort of disconnect, and I think that there needs to be a third party evaluating her to make the determination. And I think that that's not an unreasonable ask. That's something that the jail can accept, and I think the state is not opposed to that. So that's what I'm asking the court, to allow me to bring in my own mental health professional to evaluate Mrs. Adelson and make a determination whether or not she is a suicide risk, or for the jail to accept the determination or speak to the jailers in Miami-Dade County that observed her and made a completely different determination about her mental state.
Mr. Toomey, Mr. Pimentel, what?
Yeah, I would agree. If she already been cleared, I'm not entirely sure why they restarted the clock on her. I would assume that the prosecution doesn't mind, because having her under this is a resource heavy obligation for the jail. Yeah, Miss Adelson has already been told off twice, and let's see if there's more of that. Oh, I think she's the wrong lawyer for this case, but Donna absolutely must have full access to her attorneys. Full access and access are two different. Okay, Bradshaw v. Sander 2007. Okay, so that's not a violation, but still you have this discrepancy between the evaluation in Miami and here. But yeah. Okay, Sarah Jones says, from what I understand, it regularly restarts when you change locations. Okay. but they cleared her in 5 days in the Miami jail. Now she's been under this watch for 22 days in Tallahassee. So there's a bit of a discrepancy here. That is strange. Am I healthier? My girlfriend got me anti-cold medicines. I have no idea exactly what it is, but I got a throat spray and pills and and after the trial stream ended, I took a 5-hour nap and I'm feeling a lot better. And completely unrelated, I'm supposed to wait 4 hours. Never mind. Oh, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I mean, it's the discrepancy here, because if they could evaluate her in 5 days, why does it take Tallahassee 22 days and counting? Florida, the further north you go, the more southern you get. All right. Let's continue.
Administrative remedies are actually available to inmates absent the court stepping in.
That is a key question when it comes to injunctions. That's
Yes.
There are two means. First, that there's a grievance procedure in the jail that can and must be followed. Second, there is always civil suit, either in this courthouse or the fancy courthouse up the street. So there are legal avenues in place that preclude the entry of an injunction. There was something that was just said. I am not the arbiter for the state. I am for this client in the jails that they have in this state when it comes to sending out the medical records. It's either by release or by subpoena. The authority is there.
Mr. Pimentel, do you have anything further to argue on behalf of the sheriff?
Well, Your Honor, I need to put something on the record first. James Pimentel, General Counsel of the Sheriff's Office. I've been Sheriff McNeil's General Counsel for almost 7 years now. I've never heard from this attorney. I haven't heard from anyone representing this defendant. Any assertion, sir, that they've attempted to contact the Office of General Counsel. I have a paralegal. I have email. I've never been contacted by this defendant or this defendant's counsel.
Oh, yeah. Still, I mean, Miss, I forgot her name. You kind of need to back up your claims. You can't just walk into court as a seasoned lawyer and make claims when you never actually asked for records that you have the right to. No, my lovely nurse girlfriend does not give me sponge bath before she tucks me in bed. It would be nice, though. It would be really nice. I might give. I will keep that suggestion in mind. But again, walking into court and make claims and then immediately get responded with, they never asked for this at all. That's not good. Miss, what was her name? Esperanza? No, I can't remember her name.
Very well. I'm going to make my findings as follows. As to the issue of there being a Sixth Amendment violation where there is no access by Ms. Adelson to counsel of record, I cannot find that. However, Ms. Adelson being able to confer with counsel privately, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Pimentel, is there an ability to make accommodation for that, even in the observation wing?
Yes, Your Honor, there is. Chief Mack and I will work to ensure that we have a protocol, Your Honor.
Very well. What I would ask you to do then is please speak with defense counsel as to what accommodations can be made so she can visit with counsel privately as she prepares for her case. Obviously, there's a very voluminous amount of discovery that's already been provided by the state. Is that correct, Ms. Kappelman?
Yes, Your Honor.
She is going to need to be able to speak in private with her attorney and go through all documents, all records, all manner of evidence that the state is seeking to use as a part of its case in chief. Does she have ability to use either a computer or some form of multimedia while in direct observation?
Your Honor, she wouldn't be able to do it while in the direct observation cell, but we would make accommodations through security to make that occur.
Very well. According to the policy that you already have in place, when will her status as residing in direct observation be revisited?
Every day, Your Honor, on a daily basis.
Right, Mr. Scalzo, as to issuing an injunction against the jail, I do not believe I have the authority to do so. The District Court of Appeal rulings, and I'm specifically going to cite to Bradshaw versus Sandler. This is found at 955 Southern 2nd, 1219, 4th DCA case from 2007.
Should she be before the same judge as her son? Well, yeah. Tallahassee, not a big jurisdiction, and with a limited, and he has knowledge of the case and or the prior cases, and he is impartial as to the proceedings. He is there for the law, not for the fact, not as a fact finder. So I don't see anything that says he shouldn't be the same judge. Oh, thank you, Sonny. Rashbaum was in gallery. Tomorrow I will see if Marisol is in Charlie's gallery watching Rashbaum. That will be interesting. Again, Mr. Rashbaum visiting Donna Adelson. I'm still on the, because he hasn't been sentenced yet. So Charlie and Mr. Rashbaum, that's, so there isn't any conflict of interest going on. That would be, yeah, that would be, well, as impartial as they can get in this matter. I kind of liked this judge during the Charlie Adelson trial, but I understand where you're coming from, Lockon.
That specifically dealt with a trial court who ordered a defendant to be taken to a dentist of his choosing. Similar, by analogy, for me to allow Miss Adelson to be seen by a psychiatrist or psychologist that is a third party is stepping on the separation of powers in that regard. Until there's been an exhaustion of remedies with regard to whatever internal procedure is available for her to avail herself of regarding grievances or other matters with the jail, an injunction is not something that I can entertain at this point. Did you wish to be heard further?
No, Your Honor, not on this topic.
Ms. Kappelman, did you have anything further you wish to argue on behalf of the state? Right, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Pimentel, and Chief Mack, if you can get with defense counsel, I think that will eliminate next time the need to have any hearings on a basis such as this. Obviously, Ms. Adelson wants to prepare for her trial. She is entitled to do so, but the sheriff runs the jail. I fully recognize that, and I respect that. Do you wish to be heard further?
Nothing further. No, sir.
Right, let's move on to the matter of the arraignment, also why we were here this afternoon as well.
Excuse Judge?
You are excused.
So I just have to blow my nose. 1 second, please. And I'm back. Okay, now that was the so-called emergency hearing. What my take is from that is that Miss... I keep forgetting her name. If you go into court and make claims, be sure to back them up. If it's revealed that you never asked for the medical records, that you never called the actual sheriff's office, that's not a good look. Now it is the discrepancy between the Miami jail releasing Donna Adelson from that self-ending watch. Then it got restarted. I can see why that happened. We don't know what's in those medical records, what has happened during these 22 days. If she is a mouthpiece, if she's... yeah. I don't know. Simply, I don't know. But it seems like a discrepancy that should be handled with. But as the judge says, that is out of his hands. If the jail can say they have the capabilities. But let's move on to the arraignment.
Your Honor, before they're excused, I would like them to provide me, yes, their business card so that I may contact them. Thank you.
That's fine.
I wrote to you on LinkedIn because I couldn't find them.
Okay, and again, Charlie Adelson sentencing is tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. And before that,
As to the matter of the arraignment, does your client waive the reading?
Okay, I will have a stream up for the Young Thug Rico trial, just in case there is something interesting that happens. They will get together at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and maybe we will get some more information out of that. And I know there are a few news articles that I can read from for you regarding the young Shannon Stillwell, who was stabbed in jail last night and is hospitalized, which put a wrench in the machinery for that trial. So, I will go into that first, and then I will have a separate stream for the Charlie Adelson sentencing tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. But let's move on with the arraignment. Who was hurt? Shannon Stillwell, one of the defendants in the Young Thug Rico trial, was stabbed in jail last night. So that trial is put on a bit of a hold until further notice. They will reconvene every morning, and we will get more news. thank you, Wendy. She's been a member for 7 months. And she says, love this channel so much. Thank you so much. And being a member is something I promote. It's $3 a month, and you get access to members-only content, my Discord, and everything in between. And it's memberships and the occasional super chat that keeps this channel afloat. And everything that gets into the channel is used to improve the channel. And I'm greatly grateful for anything, because I know times are tough. Economy, not fun. So I'm so deeply grateful for anything you deem that you can spare, more or less. And thank you so much. Yeah. That we can talk about that on the Charlie Adelson sentencing tomorrow, about what's after Donna, because that trial must happen before we know anything else. Okay, Value 87 says Shannon still with fiance, says he was stabbed once in the stomach and once in the back. She also said he will survive after a 2-hour surgery. Okay. That's, yeah, but survive and being able to go back into the trial setting, that's 2 different things. So I would assume that there will be no Young Thug trial before the end of this year. As I said during Ronco's charity stream, I will pledge a membership. You can get gifted a membership. That's an option. And I'm not entirely sure where you accept gifted memberships, but that's an option too. Let's continue with the arraignment.
Of the indictment.
Yes, Your Honor.
How does she plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Not guilty plea is entered for the record. While we're here, we might as well have a brief case management as well. Ms. Kappelman, I believe you stated you've already provided discovery to the defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Scalzo, realistically, how much time do you think it's going to?
All right, we got company. Let's say hello to self-defense lawyer extraordinaire, Andrew Becca. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Spent the whole day on a motorcycle. It was great fun.
You brag. No, I'm not a motorcycle. I don't. I have a 4-wheeler, but I'm not a motorcyclist because my dad is one, and he may or may not have had a few injuries. And
I recommend against it. When people ask me, I tell them don't do it. It's dangerous.
Yeah, Dad always said it was his dream to me and him going on a motorcycle vacation and adventure. I'm a car person, and I understand the freedom and everything, but it's like comparing a sailboat to a motorboat. You're one of you either or. It's like motorcycles or car. Well, you have people who are both car and motorcycle, but if you're a motorcycle person,
not usually.
Yeah,
usually
not
motorcycles spoil you for cars.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. What happened here? Thank you, Wendy, for gifting 10 memberships. That's so sweet. That's so sweet. And to Lynn Dalton, to Gillian Maloney, Honey 2800, Salty Dog, Stephanie Bland, Moni G, Cat's Pajamas, Alexei Muted, David Nelson. And did I miss anyone? I don't think so. Most of you are returning members, but for you who aren't, there's a link to my Discord in the members section, and there are tons of members-only content because sometimes I produce videos that has nothing to do with law, and that would ruin my the YouTube algorithm.
It would.
Members-only crap. Oh, not crap, but members-only stuff. Okay. Yeah, back to this. Yeah, you don't know much about the Adelson cases, do you?
I know nothing. I know the woman in the blue sitting down is the defendant. That's all I know.
Okay, yeah. Donna Adelson is the matriarch of the Adelson family. And back in 2014, Wendy Adelson, the daughter of Donna Adelson, was married to Dan Markell. They divorced through, the divorce was interesting, to say the least. They put up the binder in one of the trials, and it was a contest. And that was just after the divorce when they started to handling the kids. And
yeah,
it was,
so when that happens, folks, it's usually driven by the woman.
yeah, because how Dan Markell...
Guys just want to get out. At that point,
Yeah.
we just want to eject.
Yeah. Dan Markell discovered that even though they had issues in the marriage, he discovered that she wanted a divorce by her taking the kids, all of the stuff in the house, while he was on a business trip, and just and cash and everything. So yeah, it was kind of vitriolic. Dan Markell was a Florida law professor.
Mm.
So he knew the law and could do he could do a lot. And talking about people who can do a lot, Valhalla.
I can do a
Hey,
little,
how you doing,
a
man?
little bit of a lot. How you doing, Andrew? How you doing, Nicholas?
Good.
Good. Oh, it's been a long day, man. It's been a long day.
Yeah, I'm in the back end of a cold, but my sweet nurse girlfriend gave me anti-cold medicine and stuff, and I'm feeling a lot better.
Well,
I have
good.
no idea what it was, but I have a spray and I've got some pills. Feeling a lot better. I have no idea what it is. But if she says, take this, all right. Couldn't.
Well, let's hope it's not ketamine, because that seems to have adverse effects.
And ketamine or eye drops. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but well, the history. Dan Markell got ended by two thugs. During the investigation, they discovered that these two thugs had the connection with a woman named Katie, who was the current girlfriend of Charlie Adelson. And during the investigation, and it took quite a while to unravel everything, but they discovered that Charlie Adelson, convicted now, sentencing is tomorrow. So it's taking a long time. But first they got to the two thugs, then they got to Katie, and now they're moving, then Charlie, and now they're moving on to Donna. So this is a interesting family matter. Where
how was he killed? Was he like shot in his driveway, or?
Yeah,
I guessed it. So typical. So predictable. The way these women, when they hire killers, how they get it done. It's always shot dead in the driveway.
He'll be leaving his house at this time in the morning.
And they had to try twice, these thugs, because the first time they weren't successful because something happened. I'm not sure. The second time they drove up, Dan Markell was in the driveway. He had his phone somewhat in his hand, and there was a business card on the floor. So he was probably talking to someone business-like. He was shot through the window once, and then once again, center stage. So it was not like a mistake shooting. But one thug rolled on the other thug, and the snitcher got 17 years for driving, and the other thug got life without parole. And then they went after Katie. Katie, one of the thugs had kids with Katie. So it's really a family matter. Katie was an opportunist, lovely woman who dated up but kept having babies with this man, with the thug. And
she was married to somebody else?
No,
she was married to him.
No,
she wasn't married. Okay, all right.
She wasn't married at all. She just had kids with him. But she dated Charlie Adelson. Charlie Adelson was a prominent Miami dentist who liked cash.
They had a lot of money, right?
They had a lot of money.
Like,
I mean, they are an offshoot of the Las Vegas Adelsons, who I think owns a casino there. So we are talking a family with resources. But they chose to use those resources to Kling and Clang Murder for Hire Incorporated, and that wasn't as successful as they might have thought.
It just goes to show, man, inherited money does not correlate with IQ.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth?
How can you be dumber than hiring a killer? It's almost unimaginable to me, because the truth is, if you just do it yourself and don't tell anybody,
there's only one person
getting caught.
We don't give advice to how to commit. We point out
when I've
mistakes.
seen that done in the as a lawyer.
From my experience watching court trials, my assessment is simply that, you can only tell on yourself that way. Nobody else can tell on you.
Yeah, and it was two very weird trials, and then Charlie was convicted last month, and now he's up for sentence. Now they're after Donna, because Donna is the matriarch. I think they have close to, I don't remember the number I have in my head is around 500 hours of surveillance, including phone calls, wiretapping, the lot.
So they put law enforcement put a lot of resources into this.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a murder for hire, and the guy who was ended was a Florida law professor. So yeah. So far, I believe in all the trials they have presented maybe 50 hours of surveillance. So there's a lot more. And I think when it comes to Donna, she's the one they've been aiming for all along. Because Donna couldn't handle this. If you haven't heard about this case at all, you couldn't guess what I'm about to say. Donna Adelson was so furious because Dan Markell stayed in Tallahassee because law professor, which meant that Wendy Adelson had to stay there too because she couldn't move the kids, and they had joint custody.
Yep.
She couldn't handle that because reasons. So she came up with different plans to spite Dan Markell and force his hand. Among others, one suggestion that wasn't realized was paying him $1 million. The other one was to convert they are both Jewish families. Markell is Orthodox and Adelsons are regular. To convert the kids to Catholicism.
This is the crazy case you were telling me about, where the grandma was taking all those crazy pictures for like Christmas cards or whatever. Had the kids dressed up.
And the next thing that was suggested was to dress up the kids in Mr. Hilter's Jugend uniforms.
Oh, it's so wild.
Yeah. 'You can't make this up.
Yeah, so I see someone in the comments mention this seems like an ego and pride war. Folks, this is just human beings. So whether you're talking a gang killing in the ghetto or you're talking a Shakespearean play, you're talking Hamlet, the human drivers are all the same. It's always ego, ultimately.
Well, and more specifically, this is essentially a terrible custody battle, right? Is what it boils down to in the end.
Yeah.
It's a custody battle between two families that go way back and have very deep pockets and give zero Fs about what normal society thinks.
Yeah. And I mean, Wendy Adelson was trapped in Tallahassee, which is ironic because now Donna and Charlie are literally trapped in Tallahassee. And Tallahassee to Miami.
It's like the worst part of Florida. It's too far north to even be warm in the winter.
Right.
It actually gets cold there. It's like you're in Florida, but you got frost on your car. Like, what's the point of that?
That's where all those pictures of the gators with their snouts frozen in ice come from, is Tallahassee.
Yeah, other things. Sonny, Dan was moving to have a disbarred for violations of the MSA. Yeah, Wendy Adelson, also a lawyer. So they're all lawyers or dentists. Because why not?
Wow.
And yeah, there's so much. But anyway, now after Charlie Adelson was convicted last month, Donna kind of had a hunch that they might be coming for her. And how did she decide to move along with this one? Well, she called Charlie in jail and told him about her plans.
What did she do for a living?
Matriarch of the family. She's the housewife of...
But someone said something about being disbarred. Was she a lawyer too?
No.
What's MSA stand for? Someone said Dan was moving to have her disbarred for violations of the MS.
Yeah,
is that the marital separation agreement?
Yeah, something of that sort.
Why would she be disbarred for that? That doesn't make any sense.
Because she allegedly lied her teeth.
But is she a member of the bar? Is what I'm asking. Oh, she's a lawyer.
So she is a lawyer.
No, not Donna. Wendy, the daughter, the mother of the kids. This is Donna, the grandmother.
Okay, all right. Sorry,
I was with you, Bronco.
It's a complicated web. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was confused.
Now,
but the person who was a lawyer called on a
Donna Adelson called her son in jail and told him that her and Harvey, her husband, were planning to, if they can't get out of the country before they catch them, she would end herself. And that made the cops kind of we might want to zone in. So they caught Donna and Harvey at Miami airport with one-way tickets to Vietnam, who has no extradition.
Did they have that deleted Google search on their laptop? What nations have no extradition? Folks, if you didn't know, I can tell you, man, when I get evidence files, all that stuff you deleted off your phone and your laptop, I get all that.
Yeah.
It never really goes away. Including your porn, by the way. Your porn history is all there in the evidence file.
Remind me, I need to get a new phone soon.
Yeah. I have a Scramble app that writes and overwrites and re-overwrites when
maybe
yeah, and that's not that's just in case of nothing. Well, by the way, Sonny Tanner, she was in court during the Charlie Adelson, and she was in my chat, and great information from her what happened in court, and she will be in court tomorrow during the sentencing, and hopefully in my chat. Very good, my very own court reporter. Whee! I sent her some merch as a thanks. I hope she will get it before Christmas.
I think Andrea Burkhart's following this case too. I thought I saw her comment on it.
Yeah, I saw a comment on it also, and Peter Tragos is following it because Dan Markell was one of his professors.
You know, it's
in
a
law
funny
school.
thing, the people you meet in law school. So one of my law school classmates actually went on to murder his wife, who I had dinner with them, murdered his
Wow.
wife, and
Wow.
and got his stepson, his son, but it was her stepson, to help him with the murder and hide, burying the body and all that. And
Ooh,
yeah, I was in class with this guy for 2 years,
Jesus.
and he's still serving life in prison up in New Hampshire. Yeah, but you meet the most interesting people in law school.
No,
I've got at least 2 of those from my time in the Army that have gotten out and done horrific things since, and it's mind blowing. Like thinking about who these guys were at the time and what they did after the fact, it's absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah. You never really know people. I mean, one of my best friends growing up in rural Sweden, currently on actual life in Sweden, and but you could see him deteriorate over time due to drugs, committing crimes, doing more drugs to commit. The whole circle, and more severe until, well, he did that final thingy, which put him in for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And I kept talking to him, I mean, throughout this, because I think I was probably one of the last people he could talk to who knew him from the time when he wasn't who he became. And I knew he was extremely dangerous, but somehow that small connection made it that we could talk, at least.
I think someone in the comments is asking me about me, my buddy. He wasn't my buddy. The guy I knew in law school who killed his wife. She's asking, was he sketchy? Yes. There was always something off about him. I was always very uncomfortable with him.
Oh, thank you, X-Comer. How was Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Val?
Look at that avatar. Oh, that's a good avatar, X-Comer. They are in the best possible spot they can be. So I had 3 ducklings born tonight, and it's very hot season, and I have very little hope that they'll make it till spring because it's winter, right? And they're in the best spot they could possibly be in the barn, with the most protective of mothers. So I have slightly more hope than I did when I ended my stream an hour and a half ago. So I did check on them, X-Comer. They're out there. We'll see how they do. We'll see how they do.
I hope you're not talking about your kids.
No, ducklings.
Oh, ducklings. Okay.
Yeah, Muscovy ducks. Muscovy ducks.
Kind of gruesome. I got them in the barn. Maybe they'll make it.
It's going to get a little cold tonight. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Valhalla is a goat farmer. I thought everybody knew that.
I am. I'm a small-time goat farmer, but I am a goat farmer, yes.
Oh. Yeah, and for you who don't know, I have a farm too. But I rent out the land to the neighboring farms so they can do produce.
Smart. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, because I don't have the time for it. I just wanted to be left the fuck alone.
Which oddly enough is why I started raising goats. People just leave me alone. I'll stick with my goats.
Yeah.
I can't make your plans that weekend. I have goat things to do. I can't make it.
Oh, Don Markell's book is Privilege or Punish: Criminal Justice and the Challenge of Family Ties. That's... Yeah. I might think he wrote that book at the time of his divorce.
Well, just think Dan Markell would be alive today if he hadn't gotten married. Think about it, bachelors.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've heard through the lawyer, Peter Tragos, about Dan Markell was the guy who was the smartest in the room, no matter which company, when it came to reading the actual law. He was never a trial attorney or anything of that sort.
You said.
Yeah. And purely academic, but yeah.
Was he actually, or did he believe he was?
Actually, this is what other people said about Dan Markel. He himself was apparently very humble about it. So that
Yeah, but it makes
is-
sense. I mean, he ends up in academia. That's where those guys go. They
Yeah.
they don't really trial work is, it's not academic. I mean, you're basically cranking the same handle all the time. So
Right.
it gets kind of boring. You're doing it for the money. And there's the really good ones have a real talent for theater, but they don't really need to be world-class legal experts. They just need to know whatever the issues are in that particular
Yeah.
case. But they're not writing treatises for law school students to learn the law. So the really, really smart guys, they'll go to law school, and the super smart ones, the 100th of 1%, they go to law school and they become partners in some big law firm where all they do is get called on once every 5 years to consult on a case.
Yeah. Now, in labor law, I mean, this is so niche, and it's all about negotiations, mitigations, and knowing everything that is to know about this specific subject and how to use it in a negotiation setting. I don't do trials.
How often do those disputes end up in court? I mean, in trial?
Extremely rare.
Yeah, right. Because you're doing your job,
Yeah,
right? You're doing your job, so it doesn't have to go to trial.
Yeah. I think I have less than 5 cases over 30 years that actually went to trial.
Yeah, and that's success.
Yeah.
Going to trial is a nightmare. That's like, I got to get chemo now. That's a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't in labor law. You never want to go to trial because in Sweden we have a specific court for labor issues, and if you're not careful, you might set an accidental precedent that might hurt your other cases. That's why you always want to do everything mano a mano over a conference table.
Hey, listen, I had a couple drinks at dinner, and I feel like I might have derailed the whole show. So
No worries.
With my commentary. So if you want to go back to the trial, it's totally fine with me. I certainly won't.
No worries. We just had this with Donna. She was on self-ending watch in Miami. She was cleared after a few days. She went to Tallahassee. She was put back on self-ending watch, which is apparently standard. Now she's been on self-ending watch for 22 days. And they evaluate her every day. And the judge has just ruled that, well, there's not much he can do. That is out of his hands. And since she's getting evaluated, her Sixth Amendment rights are not violated. And the lawyer...
No, the judge is going to leave that up to the jail personnel.
Yeah.
So
this lawyer made a few mistakes. She went hard on... has she really been evaluated? Has this, has that, has this? And then... the jail came back with, well, she hasn't contacted us and she hasn't asked for the medical records. That's she made a good case until it fell apart about her Sixth Amendment rights being violated.
Is this the lawyer here in black?
Yeah. She's a seasoned lawyer. She is currently a white-collar criminal defense attorney. She has been a federal prosecutor. And she's been active since 2002. So
literally none of that impresses me.
Yeah, but she's seasoned.
Sorry.
At least she should know better than to go into court without the paperwork.
She's been in the law a long time. So I run into this a lot with motorcyclists. They'll say, "Oh, I've been riding a motorcycle for 20 years or 30 years," but they've been riding the same 3 miles to the same bar and back for 30 years. They don't actually know how to ride. They know how to ride that one little stretch of road. They're fine for that. They can even do it drunk. They do it all the time. But you can't put them on a road they're not familiar with. I mean, they'll die. So they don't actually know how to ride a motorcycle, even though they've been doing it for 30 years. A lawyer like this can be practicing for a long time and not be very good. And I hate to say it, but especially the federal prosecutor thing, the feds are very aggressive about recruiting women to be prosecutors, and they stay a couple of years and then they leave because they're not very good. But they get to claim that on the resume forever. It doesn't mean they're good attorneys. It's a veneer of looking like you're a good attorney.
That would explain her conduct during the first part of this hearing, which was an emergency motion to get Donna Adelson out of this self-ending watch. And as it's happened, lawyer never asked for the actual medical record from the jail, where it says she's been looked at on a daily basis. Ta-da! And so that kind of fell apart. And
which I would suggest a conscientious male attorney would have automatically done. It would never have occurred to them to not request those records.
And during the first part of this, the judge had to tell Donna Adelson twice to stop talking and let her lawyer talk for her and stop making gestures. So she's a very interesting lady who she's been a matriarch for this family for decades. She is in a somewhat different situation now when she is absolutely not in control, and she have some issues with that.
Well, she's in jail now, so it's a little.
So
different.
I saw a I don't know what do we call them now? Tweets, X's? I don't know. I don't know what we call them anymore. But a post on Twitter by Andrea Burkhart saying her practice with these kinds of clients is to give them a pad of paper and a pen and say, "Don't talk. Just if you have an objection, write it down, and I'll review it later." To keep them from interrupting the court proceedings, because they think they're being righteous, the defendant. They look like a lunatic to the court. This is not how courts are run. Defendants don't just get to talk shit whenever they feel like it. And it just pisses off the judge. It makes everyone else scared. And you don't want to be doing that. And I think that's great advice. That's what every attorney should do when you have this kind of difficult client. Defense attorneys will normally tell their clients to act like a mannequin. You have no facial expression. You're not you don't say a goddamn thing. I'm in charge of your defense. And if you want to discuss things with me, we do it off channel, outside of the courtroom. But in the courtroom, in front of the judge, in front of the jury, you are stone-faced because there is no facial expression or demeanor that cannot be badly misinterpreted by a jury. You want to give them nothing to misinterpret.
Yeah, but now we are into the arraignment part. I haven't watched this part at all, so this will be new to all of me on us. So
all of me, outstanding.
Arraignment. Does your client waive the reading of the indictment?
Yes, Your Honor.
How does she plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Not guilty plea is entered for the record. While we're here, we might as well have a brief case management as well. Ms. Kappelman, I believe you stated you've already provided discovery to the defense.
Well, the prosecutor has the same hair as the
Scalzo,
defendant.
realistically, how much time do you think it's going to take you to go through what you've already received?
She's worth it.
Your Honor, as long as I have access to Mrs. Adelson, as has been stated here in court, and she...
Yeah, lawyer has been complaining that she can't get access to her client, which
that seems unlikely.
Yeah, that was kind of refuted because she's on self-ending watch. They can meet in an office with just her and the client, closed door, but with a big window wall with no sound, so the guards can observe, so she doesn't start to grab a pen and
yeah.
I was listening.
I mean, I would object too, actually, just because they're listening. I mean, I don't trust them not to listen. But you can whisper in your client's ear. But I mean, if your client looks like she's gonna, herself, the jail can't allow that to happen. She's in their custody. She's in their care.
Yeah.
Before I jumped on, I heard something about her not being allowed to have papers. I thought they could not take your legal paperwork away from you when you're in custody.
No, she when they meet, they can't have paper and stuff like that since she is on self-ending watch. Anything that can cause any self-harm. She can have a tablet, an earphone, and earbuds they can share and go through this discovery.
Death by paper cut seems a little bit much.
Yeah.
I don't know how
you would be amazed in prison what you can do with paper and soap.
That's true.
And-
If you have time, though.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen like newspaper turn into a deadly weapon, no question about it. But
Crossbows
it
and
takes
stuff.
time to do
Yeah.
that. I wonder I wonder. I'd like to know. I mean, I've never been a jailer, so I don't know. But are they worried like there could be acid or cyanide or something dripped onto the paper and then?
It's
crazy.
apparently it's standard protocol, but they do have while she's on self-ending watch that they can share a tablet and go through the discovery when they get to meet.
I would
Yeah,
think
I mean,
that
the bottom line is the client just needs to be able to effectively communicate with the lawyer. That's all.
Yeah.
And if that's happening, then there's no Sixth Amendment problem here.
He has access to be able, as you know, there's recordings in this case, and as long as she's able to listen to them and we're able to listen to them together, we plan to proceed to trial promptly.
Very well.
Promptly. Again, the discovery in this case is large, extremely. We are talking about 500 hours of wiretapping, video surveillance.
But normally, most of that is pointless.
Yeah.
Nothing's going on, right? So,
Yeah, and the paperwork, but they have had the trial against the two thugs, Katie, and then Charlie. So everything has been gone through on multiple occasions. Oh, and by the way, the nicknames for the two thugs are Tito and Tata. So we kind of called Katie, the middle woman, Titties. Because Charlie allegedly paid for her extra front load, and so it's Tito, Tata, and Titties.
are they in evidence?
Oh,
Sorry,
she might.
inappropriate question.
She might testify.
almost as good. Almost as good.
No, if you want those kind of things, you could watch the Jodi Arias trial,
Jodi
where
Arias
the entire Jodi Arias was entered into evidence.
The three-hold wonder.
Three-hold wonder.
I was thinking of when another case management date would be good to kind of keep a good status of this as far as where it's moving. Is February too early, or would you prefer March?
Oh, no, Your Honor, I'd like earlier. I don't, as long as I can communicate with Mrs. Adelson, I'm happy to have a status in January, if that works for the court and the state.
Ms. Koppelman?
Yes, sir. Be available in January.
I definitely don't want to push too hard, too fast, but once we get locked into a trial date, absent there being good cause, we're really not going backwards. So I want you to give me realistic estimates as far as how much time it's going to take to prepare. As far as any depositions that you're already aware of that.
Thank you, Brandon, for your $5 super chat. In due time, all things get through on multiple occasions. Yep. Thank you so much. I appreciate every time you pass by and sponsor my channel. Thank you.
You are going to take in this matter. Have you identified those? Have you noticed any?
No, Your Honor, because I have not been able to discuss that with Mrs. Adelson.
Very well. We'll pick back up with this then in January for status. Cheyenne, if you could give me the dates for January.
Okay, status hearing in January.
All right, we'll put it on January 9th. I believe that's Ms. Dugan's docket date. January 9th at 2:30. You may appear by Zoom if you need to. And we'll readdress the matter then. Does either party have anything further to address concerning case management, at least for today?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
We are in recess.
Oh. Now that part was the thing I expected this entire hearing was to be about. It's like, yeah, 5 minutes in and out. But then the first part happened. That was the interesting part, which you both missed. But I think I gave you good rundown of what actually happened.
All right,
Oh, line read,
cool.
I know a Miami attorney in Tallahassee is a mistake. You can't. Yeah, I'm not accustomed to state to the U.S. kind of thing, but
Well, there's something in the
Culturally, it can be a big problem. So
Right, when
Tallahassee is a
you're-
very, very different city than Miami.
when you're bringing in the
opposite
big-time
ends of the state of
lawyer from
Florida.
out of town, the local population, the local judge, the local prosecutor, they don't like it, right? You're bringing some hotshot lawyer from the big city in to deal with some case. They get very protective.
Even if they're not affirmatively hostile, you just don't have those. You don't have the existing relationship, and the judges get very sketchy with out-of-town lawyers, because if it's an in-town lawyer, that judge has seen you 100 times. He knows he's going to see you another 100 times. He knows you can't F with him because you're going to be in front of him again, and he'll hold you accountable and make your life miserable. But if you're a fly-in lawyer and you're going to fly out after the case, he's not confident that he can constrain that you're going to act with appropriate decorum in his court. It makes him nervous. It's an unusual judge lawyer relationship in the courtroom.
Yeah.
It's not common.
Yeah, and this lawyer who met this judge for the first time, and it was revealed that she didn't even ask for the medical records before she accused the jail to not evaluate Mrs. Adelson correctly. Yeah, that's not a good start. That's kind of a waste of time. Bringing a motion in for emergency hearing, and then it's revealed you didn't even ask for the medical records.
Oh, an emergency hearing.
Yeah, emergency motion to get Donna evaluated and off self-ending watch.
That's just bad lawyering. I don't care where she's from. That's you're going to force an issue with the judge. You better have all your ducks in a row.
Yeah.
If you look like you're half-assing it, you know what judges hate more than anything else? Wasting their time.
Yeah, I mean,
he's got a tea time to get to.
Yeah, or afternoon appointments out of court and stuff like that. But most judges also have quite a full docket, unless they can do anything about it.
They say they do.
They say they do, yeah. And interestingly enough, when we were talking about this, how the jail is they have an obligation to the defendant to keep them alive to trial.
Sure.
And in the Young Thug RICO trial, that has been a bit of postponed because one of the defendants was stabbed in jail last night, 2 weeks into trial. How? One of the biggest, the biggest and longest RICO trial in Georgia history. Can you not protect the defendants from being stabbed?
I mean, what are you going to do? Keep them in solitary for the whole time? I mean, people get stabbed in the prison all the time.
Yeah.
Even if
people don't know, but not only are there edged weapons in prison that they just manufacture. There's drugs in prison. There's guns in prison that the prisoners have. I mean, these are porous controls.
Yeah, but you who have at least more knowledge about U.S. law than I do, there are 6 defendants in the Young Thug RICO trial. Now one of them are out of commission. I will go more into that tomorrow, but he was 2 hours surgery, so he is currently out of harm. But
how many times was he stabbed?
One in the back, one in the stomach.
Oh, that's 25 better than Chauvin.
Yeah. And depending on how, because they can't resume the trial until he is fit enough to be back in the courtroom, right? And they can't just exclude him since the jury has been assembled and sworn in. They can't just remove him from the charges, I assume, because that would be more or less a mistrial.
Well, we don't know. I mean, Nicholas, in American law, this happens so rarely that we don't really have standards for this. It's very uncommon to have even 2 defendants in a trial. much less 6 or 8. I mean, this would not normally be done. This greatly complicates everything for many reasons.
Yeah.
In addition to, of course, that each defendant's entitled to their own defense, and now they're being conflated with all these other defendants, and you hear testimony against one guy, and the jury's not going to remember at the end of a multi-week or month-long trial whose testimony was against which in particular defendant. It's just, to me, it completely lacks due process. But so it's so uncommon that we don't have norms for what should happen now that one guy's been stabbed. Do we stop the trial? Is it a mistrial? Do we start all over again with a new jury? There's just no norms.
Yeah.
And RICO was never meant to be charged in a criminal trial. It was always meant to be tax evasion and
it's a mafia law.
Right.
It was intended for the mafia, where there's a well-orchestrated structural entity that you're going over after that entity, really, and it's just all the defendants are intrinsically tied to each other. They're all, they're part of the same mafia family, right? That's what it's intended for. It's just bad policy to throw a bunch of criminal defendants together like this.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And it speaks to how broad and vague the Georgia RICO Act is, when you can, in one hand, you can have, at the beginning, there were 28 defendants in the Young Thug RICO charges. Now they're down to 6.
Because the rest is flat out.
As a criminal enterprise, also known as a street gang. And the same act goes to that and Trump. I mean, it's ridiculous how they can use the same act in this criminal setting and what is more or less, white collar. Whatever they charge with, persuasive and intimidation, and I don't remember exactly what all the charges are against former President Trump, but it's amazing for me. But here's what is I can't say as I'm outside looking in that I care too much about any of your presidents because I'm not American. But he lost all the lawsuits. So what's the fucking problem? Why go after him with all of this crap? He went the civil suit way to check in, change, whatever, and he lost. That should be the end of story.
You mean contesting the voting?
Yeah, contesting the vote.
Yeah, well, they're afraid he's going to win the second time. He's running again.
Yeah.
So one thing you have to keep in mind about a lot of those, and I don't have a position on election fraud. I just assume all the elections are fraudulent. So, and I don't think that's specific to Trump. I think it happens all the time. But one thing you have to keep in mind is that a lot of those election fraud decisions after the Trump not winning were not on the merits. Those were because parties didn't have standing or things were not timely filed so a lot of those decisions, you hear like, oh, whatever, I'm going to make up numbers. 37 or 40 claims of election fraud were dismissed, but a lot of them were not dismissed on the merits. No one said, oh, no, we looked and it definitely was not election fraud. They had technical legal reasons why they didn't want to proceed with the case. Now, I don't know if there's merit there or not. I'm not trying to make that claim, but I'm saying that claim was not actually evaluated in most of those court actions. But I didn't want to turn this political.
No. For me, it's just he lost the lawsuits.
But he's running again, so they have to. Yeah. Their nightmare is that if Trump wins election, he's going to do to them what they've been doing to Trump supporters for the last 4 years.
Yeah, and isn't that weird how things come back to bite you in the arse? It's like the 3, 4, 5 years ago, that cancel culture against right wing, how that came back to bite the left wing currently.
Imagine if BLM and Antifa had to worry that they were going to be treated like the January 6th protesters. Right? That's what they believe could happen. That's why they're so desperate to make sure he's not elected again. And I'm not telling anyone to support Trump. I'm not being political. I don't care how you vote. But that's what they're afraid of.
his first 4 years in office, he had the opportunity or the ability to take that route and never did. So I find that silly that's the mindset of the left. And I don't doubt you. Right. I don't doubt what you're saying is factual. I agree with you 100%.
Whether it's adult or not, that's what they think.
It's just silly.
Yeah, but this was about the arraignment for Donna Adelson and motion for pre-trial. Yeah, yeah.
We did get a little off course.
Yeah, but that's just fun. I mean, we provide entertainment to something that is essentially very boring. Trials generally are extremely boring.
Did you hear? Have you looked at the case I've been covering for the last week and a half?
No, I haven't. What is it? Talk to me. Talk to me.
Oh my God. I've been covering the Elijah McClain murder trial. Okay. This is a young black man in Aurora, Colorado. He got approached by, and actually, Bronco, you might have an opinion on this or know something about it. But he got approached when he was walking home from a convenience store. Somebody called in a suspicious person, and the police showed up. Yeah. He had earphones in his ears. They went hands-on very quickly. And in a matter of maybe 3 to 5 minutes, they had him wrestled to the ground, choked unconscious. He aspirated. They called the paramedics in. The paramedics immediately injected him with ketamine. And by the time they got him loaded into the ambulance, his heart had stopped and his breathing had stopped. He was DOA by the time they got to the hospital. They charged, this happened in 2019. They charged 3 police officers. 1 was convicted, 2 were acquitted, and now they're charging 2 paramedics. And that's the trial I'm covering now. So this is the 3rd trial from this one man's death. And I keep going back and forth on the legality of what happened and the responsibility of these paramedics, because it's like, let's be honest, I don't know well enough to just have a decisive opinion. So I'm watching the case, and it's getting harder and harder to come up with a decision, right? Every time a witness comes up, the state has their say and I'm one way, and then the defense has their say and I'm another way.
Sounds like reasonable doubt to me.
Oh man, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I mean, that's the standard, right? That's the legal standard. It's beyond proven guilty, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes, sir.
So if you're like, oh, it's kind of going both ways, well, that's a reasonable doubt.
So far, I'm there. And today was day 7. They expect it to be about a month-long trial. And it's just, no matter how you look at it, this is one of those situations where this young man should have never lost his life.
Right. So it could be an awful,
agreed,
but lawful,
and
death.
That's where I'm at with it at the current moment in time.
Now, I don't really know anything about the merits of the case. I haven't looked at it that closely. I can tell you that I know, for example, paramedics are taught to use ketamine when they believe they're dealing with a case of excited delirium. Excited delirium is a physiological state that occurs when someone's taken an amazing amount of drugs and becomes incredibly violent and hyperactive, to the point where I've seen people in excited delirium. I've seen video of it. Where there's like 6 cops on the suspect and they can't keep him on the ground. I mean, that's how much force the suspect is exerting in this panicked, excited delirium state. And you hit him with ketamine and he just calms right down. And unfortunately, things that work fine with otherwise healthy people, if you're dealing with someone with very frail physiology, this happens a lot with choking cases. With like the New York City subway case, right, where the Daniel Penny puts the guy in the chokehold, and he just dies. He shouldn't have died from that. No one expected him to die from that, but he turned off and he died. I just consulted on a case like that here in Colorado earlier this year. With it, the dude was charged with murder, reckless homicide, and manslaughter. Thankfully, we got all those charges. He was acquitted on all those charges. But sometimes techniques that work fine in an academy setting or training setting, when you're dealing with someone who's a lifelong drug addict or an alcoholic or has existing heart disease or something, you use the technique and they just die. And you were not expecting it. You were not intending it. But this whole doctrine of excited delirium, which has been in the scientific literature for 100 years.
It's not good.
Colorado legislature just passed a law today saying that they're no longer training police officers in Colorado on excited delirium. They're not allowed to be taught on it.
Well, keep in mind though, excited delirium's the same disease or disorder that they were locking women up in sanitariums in like the 20s, and it's.
What's your point?
Oh, that was an open goal. That was
good.
Goal.
That was good. Way to go. That was good. But I do think that it's one of those phrases, right? That's just
and I don't listen. I don't know. Maybe it is. I mean, the phrase is like from 100 years ago. What was medical science like 100 years ago? Right, not what we have today.
Right.
100 years ago, they barely discovered to wash their hands before surgery.
Right. So, is it possible the medical institutions or the police / medical institutions have kind of adopted this to excuse? I don't know. It's hard to say, because I think people can be acting in good faith and still end up at a bad outcome that we shouldn't allow, right?
Sure.
So I think the police are often dealing with suspects on drugs who are violent, who are non-responsive to normal, rational commands, and they have to get control of them somehow. And if you listen, the typical cop, he's not Einstein. He's just a normal dude, right? And if you tell him, hey, he says, I got 6 cops, I can't keep this guy down. And you say, well, hit him with ketamine, he'll calm down. And it works. It works 29 times out of 30, and everyone's fine, and the suspect doesn't die. He's like, okay, this is a good protocol. And his department says, okay, this is a good protocol. We're not beating him with batons for an hour, right? We just had the EMS give him a ketamine injection. Everything calmed down. The guy lived. He got care, whatever. And then one time the guy dies. It's like, well, we weren't expecting that to happen.
Oh, shit. What are we supposed to do now?
What are we supposed to do now? And again, these cops are not, they're not doctors. They're not psychiatrists. They're not rocket scientists.
This is why I decided to cover this case, because it's so intense, right? Like, and for the record, this kid, his toxicology, he had some THC in his system and nothing else but the ketamine, which sure, there's probably something else out there, but by all accounts, he was a hardworking kid. He's 23. He's not a kid. I say kid because he's young to me. Right.
And I should say, given my previous comments, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just for clarification, I would not support a paradigm where every time the cops are dealing with a resistant suspect, some EMS dude shows up and hits him with ketamine. That's not appropriate either, right?
No, it's kind of disgusting. And so me personally, right, I'm a disabled veteran, as most people know, and the thought of somebody just injecting me with an out-of-body experience inducing drug like ketamine is absolutely terrifying. Like the mere thought that somebody off the street can just walk up and inject me with ketamine.
Yeah, I get it, man. If someone listen, I'm not a veteran, but if someone were coming at me with a needle, I'd be freaking out. Sure.
Oh yeah. And I've never done ketamine. I've never had ketamine. I've never been prescribed ketamine. Like it sounds terrifying. The whole concept of ketamine sounds absolutely terrifying to me. And I can't imagine, especially because this young man, he may have been on the spectrum. There was something a little odd about him. I can't imagine that somebody with like sensory overload situations, like I can't imagine what that must have been like. You know what I mean? I can't imagine putting myself in that situation where it's horrific. And the bottom line in this case is none of this should have ever happened. And it's hard
but we have to separate the bad outcome from the criminal intent, right?
Agreed.
You're not supposed to go to prison unless there's criminal intent. And the mere fact that we had a bad outcome does not mean that anyone violated a criminal law.
I'm with you. I'm so with you. I'm so with you. It's just
again, I'm not speaking to the merits of this case. I see people in the comments, oh, the video showed this and that. I don't know, folks. I didn't watch the video. I just don't know. I'm speaking.
We do know that one cop got convicted. That's what we know, and I assume that cop was the active, somewhat.
I see bad convictions all the time.
He wasn't the one that choked him. I don't know. I haven't been able to get. He wasn't the one that initiated the chokehold.
Okay.
I think that he was the cop that so after he was without getting into the merits of the case, right? It's not the right time. I'm not trying to take over your stream, but there was one police officer in the videos that maintained a lot of pressure point holds and pain compliance tactics well after he was handcuffed and on the ground. And I'm assuming it's that cop that was the one that was actually charged. but I don't know. I haven't gotten into it yet because I've still been looking at the case that's at hand. So the big question.
And by the way,
in this
they're
case-
trained to do that. Guys in handcuffs, suspects, especially if they think they're undergoing excited delirium. These guys will jump up and run in front of a Mack truck. Handcuffed, they'll jump up and run in front of a Mack truck, and then they get killed, and everyone says, well, he was in your custody, he was in your care, you're responsible for what happened to him. So they're trained to maintain control over the suspect.
This one's just it's just so unnecessary, this whole case, right? Like, you're like, oh, well, he was probably doing this wrong, and then you look into it and it's like, well, that didn't seem like he was doing that wrong. And then you look into the cops and you're like, well, I see why they did what they did. And then you look into the paramedics and you're like, well,
so for folks who don't know, I don't know, are you in Colorado, Valhalla?
No, I'm in Tennessee.
All right, so Colorado is Aurora is a high crime neighborhood.
Yes.
In the outskirts of Denver. So there's a lot of action there for cops.
Yes.
So they're going to be more. It's not where I live. It's not suburbia where nothing ever happens. So the cops are used to going hands-on, and they're used to dealing with guns and knives and violent people. So they're much more aggressive about going hands-on in that community than they might be somewhere else. Does that make them malicious or irrational, or just responding appropriately to the exceptionally violent community in which they happen to be stationed? I'm not making a claim about any of this, right? I'm just saying these are questions I would ask about how we got to this point.
So I guess the question that pops into my mind where I go is does that then create more violence in the community? Right, if your cops are violent because of the violent members,
maybe, yeah, that's a legitimate question. So maybe people are less inclined to submit to lawful arrest because more force is being used on them than they reasonably think is appropriate. And yeah, sure, but that becomes a very complicated social dynamic that's beyond my expertise of just use of force law, right? And I was talking to a cop just today in Oklahoma City. We were having breakfast, and he's retired. But he's getting involved in some university research on things like using, what do they call it? VR goggles to develop scenarios where you can train cops to respond in other than the traditional way to erratic people or people on the spectrum, or seeking, opportunities for de-escalation, that kind of stuff. And not just going to the baton or the gun or the taser, which is how cops are now trained. Those are really their only options. Is you're non-compliant, we're going to use force, right?
I think we're making a mistake.
And the biggest difficulty he had was working with the university people, because the professors, their position is, no, all cops are bad, all force is bad. Anytime a cop uses force, it's racist. and so we can't get it to a productive outcome.
Right. Me and you have the BJJ thing in common, right? Like I bounced for a long time.
I'm a 3-stripe white belt.
that a boy, Andrew. But there is merit in the ability to take control of another human that's out of control, right? There is a benefit to being able to maintain somebody long enough that the proper authorities do show up.
Listen, even me as a BJJ white belt, when I watch cops failing to get control of a suspect,
it's sad.
It physically hurts me. I feel sick inside. It's not that hard to do if you know what you're doing. But these cops they're not taught. The only vaguely resembling thing they're taught is how to put a handcuff on, and they suck at that. They're not good at that either.
I watched a guy last night on like a Cops Reloaded episode get into a one-on-one skirmish with an individual who was drunk out of his mind. And the drunk man, moving at a quarter of the speed he should have, gave that cop a run for his money. And that cop kind of got his ass whipped for the first 10 minutes until he had backup.
We all see videos of 4 cops can control a suspect. I mean, that's insane.
It is. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely.
There's little girls on my BJJ gym, 110 pounds. I have no hope against. I'm helpless. But listen, we don't train our cops at that level. Most cops don't care. We don't provide the funding for that kind of thing. So society generally is just, I would suggest, they're not really serious about fixing the problem, because if they were, that's one of the first things they would do.
I'll give you that. I think if we were serious, every cop on a police force would have at least a blue or purple belt.
Right. Yep.
And that's, for those that don't know, that's like third and fourth belt, I think, off the top of my head in BJJ, right?
Blue belt is like the first non-retard belt. It's the first belt after white belt.
That makes sense. So
you kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah.
A little
Basically, a blue belt knows how to handle themselves in a street fight with somebody that has no idea what they're doing, and they're going to win almost 9 times out of 10, guaranteed.
Right. So the classic definition of a blue belt, the non-technical definition, is they should be able to win pretty much every fight against an untrained opponent.
Yes. And I think every cop should at least have that level of competence in a grappling match.
But look at your actual cops. So I live in a very a young town. It's recently grown explosively in population. New houses going up by the thousands. So our police department, they look like 25-year-old Adonises. I mean, these guys they're all young, they're all fit. Even the women look like models. I mean, the women cops everyone's young and gorgeous. But in a typical police department, a lot of those guys, they got a BMI of 40. I mean, these guys, they're incapable of physically fighting they would have a heart attack if they ran up a flight of stairs. Right. So you're never going to convince those guys to get a blue belt. That's not going to happen. So it's a complicated problem.
I mean, here in Sweden, you have yearly fitness tests for cops.
Yeah, they just pencil it in. They don't actually have to do anything. It's just
we don't really have fitness tests for cops in America. Not once they're on the force.
You have the initial standard to get in, right? Where you might have to bench press a certain percentage of your body weight or something and do so many push-ups and run a mile.
In the academy, even the military doesn't enforce their fitness requirements anymore. Not really.
When I was in, they did for enlisted guys, but
for enlisted guys, right?
The senior enlisted and the officers, they didn't even have to do it then. And I got out in like 2007.
We all see them. We see pictures of them.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
If you ever seen anybody in the artillery in America, they are big boys, Nicholas. They are big boys.
Oh, I've seen the memes and all the things. Yeah. Remember that there's a meme where you see a guy looking at the camera and the text is, "Do you think I can outrun him?" And behind him is one of the damn largest persons I've ever seen in a cop uniform. I'll see if I can find it. That's so...
By the way, bad guys do it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
They just run away. They run away because they know the cop can't chase them.
What are you going to do? Catch me on foot? Good luck.
No, it's not.
I happen to be a track star in high school, and I'm terrified for my life. I guarantee I'm going to run faster than your giant, overweight ass. That's the mindset, though. That's the mindset, and it's effective. So why not, right?
Unfortunately, what happens is we have, part of it's cultural, part of it is physical, part of it is, but a cop goes hands-on with a violent suspect who's superior to them in terms of fighting ability, and it's getting the suspect's getting control of the fight. The cop goes to his gun. That's what he's going to do. Should I run for it?
That's good. That's good.
Oh.
I think that go ahead, Nick.
Cops here have yearly fitness tests, yearly weapons tests. I mean, they are tested each year for a lot of things. Now, we have a good percentage of bad cops here as well. It's become better, but then they got better guns and 25 years ago, they still had to have these went through bullets, but then they changed it because it didn't really stop criminals from actually continue committing crimes. I mean, if you go through and through on your leg, they keep running or keep pounding on the victim.
Were your police taught to shoot people in the leg?
Well, a warning shot, which incidentally always got to the leg because they can't hit the ground.
No kidding.
But
you guys actually train in like warning shots?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, at least
Yeah, there
20,
is- there is
25 years
no
ago.
police
Now
department-
it's a center mass if the situation allows it.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah,
the
that's
United
interesting.
States, if a police officer is going to fire their gun at an individual, or for the military for that matter, it's center mass. There is no such thing as a shot to wound. There is no such thing as a warning shot. It's
Because it's all deadly force legally.
Exactly.
It's all the same.
But
So
in Malmö, one of the areas in Malmö, which is the most crime-riddled areas, they had a shootout a while back. 3 or 4 cops shooting at one suspect. They fired 30 shots, 2 hit, and the rest were scattered all over the place. I mean, people were genuinely scared because it went into apartments and went into cars. I mean,
yeah, police in America are terrible that way too. They
Hmm.
maybe 30% of their shots actually hit
Yeah.
the intended target. It's awful.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not like that cop who was. I saw this a few days ago. You saw him. You hear it was a shootout somewhere. And
Excuse me for
cops-
just a couple minutes. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, it was a shootout. And you can see him just opening the door, calmly go back to his trunk, getting his weapon, getting it ready, peeking around the corner.
Oh, the guy with the
Boom.
rifle, right?
Yeah, the guy with the rifle. One shot,
One shot.
suspect down. That's what everybody should be trained to. But then you have these
No.
who immediately forget all training and starts pumping the trigger instead of squeezing the trigger. And that's when
Right.
you get
They're not shooting, they're just blasting is what they're
Yeah.
doing.
that's when you get the interesting.
Most cops in the US will go
target
their
area.
entire 20-year career and never have to pull their gun and fire it in anger. They'll write 10,000 tickets, but they'll never actually have to use their gun in an act of violence. And so they train accordingly and they prepare accordingly. There are ticket writers who happen to have a gun on their hip. And the chances they're ever going to need their gun is virtually zero. Unfortunately, when they do need it, that's what they do. They jerk it out and they fire a bunch of rounds down the street, and Lord knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't touched a gun in decades, and I know for myself.
Come
if
to
I
America,
were to-
man. I got a lot of
I
guns.
need to get. I need to get there because. But I'm trained in the army how to actually conduct both a handgun and rifle and automatic and machine gun. So I do have the foundations for it, but I wouldn't in a setting hypothetical. Say I had a gun here and somebody was threatening my farm, screaming and then pulling a gun. I mean, I would rather have a shotgun than a handgun.
Well, shotguns are awesome.
Yeah, because a handgun at 30 yards, I couldn't hit the ground.
Tough shot. That's a tough shot.
With a shotgun, I need to point this in the general area. And with 2 shots, if I miss the first one. I mean...
Well, shotguns, the groups open up about an inch a yard. So depending on the distance. But the handy, the only useful purpose for pistols is that they're easy to carry around. So I carry, I got a pistol. I'm not going to put it on the screen. It's right there. That's the pistol I carry with me every day. I can't carry a shotgun around very conveniently, but I can carry a pistol around. So it just happens to be what I have on me. Heaven forbid something should happen when I'm out and about on my business.
Yeah,
if I'm,
at
my home, if I'm home and you break into my house, you're not dealing with a pistol. It'll almost certainly be an AR rifle. But if I didn't have an AR rifle, it'll be a shotgun. Because shotguns, especially within 10 yards, they just take body parts clean off of people. And that would be my choice. Pistols are, the cliche in America is pistols are the weapon you use to fight your way to a long gun, to a rifle or a shotgun.
Yeah, but Swedish self-defense laws are really, really weird because I'm not allowed to have a baseball bat on the inside my front door because that could be I'm too prepared. And stuff like it's so.
We're
stupid.
allowed to be super prepared.
Yeah, Exactly, super prepared. But it doesn't prefer. What's it called? You know those rigs where you hang your coats on that you can have sometimes.
Oh, yeah,
that
coat rack,
that
coat hook.
crossbar,
Right.
that I can have inside my door.
Oh, because it's decoration.
Yeah. Same effect. Oh, thank you, Brandon. You're going to be covering this trial for decades. The Adelsons, not so much. I will try to cover it as much as I can. But the Young Thug thing, well, everything is going to be postponed until January, definitely. Because if he's in hospital now, that there will be no more court days before Christmas. Definitely. And then it's all about how they can prepare him for being in court. Now, he was stabbed once in the stomach and once in the back. Don't know anything about the actual injuries. I mean, depends on that weapon, how far in it came, what damage it did on the inside and everything. But I think they can stitch him up and put him in a chair in the courtroom definitely within a month, unless there are complications.
So when I hear a prison stabbing with only 2 stab wounds, I'm completely skeptical because in prison, when they want you to die, they stab you like 30 times. It's just like a sewing machine. Stab, 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 stab. And no one can fix that. No surgeon can fix that. So you just expire. 2 stabs, I'm like, did they really want you to die? Or was it just kind of like you want to delay the trial a little bit?
Yeah, but they've been doing good so far, so I don't see how it would, the defense, I mean, because so far the prosecution in the Young Thug case is all about crimes these defendants actually did not commit or even charged. And the people who were charged, some of them, the charges was dropped, some of them was convicted, so that's passed, in my opinion. And for some, they were acquitted, but they still bring it in as underlying acts, overt acts, under a charge. And for me, that's just a second bite at the apple at something they couldn't prosecute these people for individually. And for me, that's just stupid.
It's another reason I don't like these group prosecutions. I think they're just bad form.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's about it what I had, actually. This took longer, but it's always great to have Andrew and Valhalla on.
Is it always great?
Yeah, it's entertaining, but maybe not for the audience sometimes, and maybe, I mean, me and Mr. Brank, I mean, by American standards, I'm center-left, maybe. And Mr. Brank, I would assume, is not.
I don't know what I am.
Yeah, I mean,
but you'll always get the truth from me. I'll give you that much.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and we don't take
my view of the truth.
Yeah, and we don't. We've been around for too long to take things personally, I think. Because
I only care about the merit of the argument. So that's all I care about. And you make meritorious arguments, so that's fine. Well, the only people I get upset with are people who are making arguments based on emotion or politics, and they're not rationally sound. You know, I have no interest in that. But you don't do that, 100%. Nick. It's always great talking with you. We may disagree, but at least your argument is sound, and that's all I could possibly ask for from anybody.
Yeah,
and I try to follow that lead as well, right? I try to seek the truth. I try to get to the bottom of the argument. I try to not get the talking points. I try to actually look for what is happening and what's relevant. And maybe I'm not doing it nearly as well as you two gentlemen, but I certainly strive for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect anyone to agree with me, but I do expect if people are not going to agree with me, that they have a sound reason for not agreeing. It's a rational reason for not agreeing. We can
unless you're Colorado Defense Attorney Association.
Well, they didn't have a rational reason.
They sure didn't.
Oh, Have they replied to? Have they said anything about you auctioning off that T-shirt?
No. And I don't expect them to. And
What are they gonna
I've been
say?
so busy with other stuff. And the truth is, I do want to follow up with this Zach Anderson trial.
Hmm.
I told them that if I could find the time, I would, because I didn't watch the trial, so I can't really
Hmm.
have an informed opinion. I feel if I didn't watch the trial,
Hmm.
but I'd like to have an informed opinion, which means I have to carve out a week or 2 weeks to actually watch the playback of the trial. I'm going to try to do that in January, but I have all these other things, like important things that matter, that could influence reality to deal with, as opposed to the whatever PMS the Colorado Public Defender's Office is dealing with. If I ever have a lull, I guess I'll follow up with them. But I mean, it doesn't mean anything. The only people I feel bad for are the indigent defendants of the Colorado Public Defender's Office who are getting inadequate legal representation.
Yeah. I mean, that's the horrific part. You got the client acquitted.
Murder.
but they are more concerned about some jackass supposed hurt feelings than getting their clients acquitted or protecting the client's rights. And I mean, if that's how you work in law, you shouldn't work in law at all.
I mean, they didn't ask me to consult for their murder defendant because they were sure they were going to get him off, right? If they were sure they were going to get him off, they wouldn't have needed me. So they called me because they thought I would make a difference. And we interviewed the jury afterwards, and the jury said, Attorney Andrew Branca made the difference. And they're saying, because he hurt our feelings, inadvertently, I would say, by the way, I never intended to hurt anyone's feelings. Because he hurt our feelings, we're never going to work with him again. So our clients will never have the benefit of his expertise again, which is fine by me. I did it pro bono. I wasn't paid any money. I'm not losing anything by not working with them. So it doesn't cost me anything. But they have clients, I guarantee you, they have clients who are going to go to prison for the rest of their lives who would be free people, but for the fact that they said, we just don't like them.
That's so disgusting, man.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's so disgusting.
And these are, by definition, these poor indigent clients, they have a public defender because they literally have no money. They are indigent. They can't just say, you know what, I don't like you, I'm going to hire my own attorney. They have no money. So they're trapped in this framework of the public defender's office who's willing to F them out of political ideology.
And that's what it is. It's politics. That's all it is. It's your outspoken opinions don't align with their politics, and now they have to make a public statement to try to make themselves seem better somehow in the process of doing so.
Even if it means their innocent clients go to prison for the rest of their lives. That's what these people are like. So when people wonder, like, how could Stalin have killed 100 million people? This is what this ideology does.
This is how.
Yep. I completely agree. But okay, tomorrow I will see if Young Thug Rico, because they have called the jury at 9 a.m. So around 9:30 or 10 a.m. we will know if whatever happens, and then 10:30 it is the Charlie Adelson sentencing tomorrow, and I will cover that live. You're both welcome if you can, but I know Valhalla has his own trial.
Yeah, I'm going to be covering day 8 tomorrow of the Elijah McClain thing.
I will be on the motorcycle all day tomorrow, so I won't be able to join.
But I will cover that sentencing. I would assume it's 90-minute tops. But then I'm actually kind of free the rest of the week because I don't have, because of the Young Thug. If they decide to F it, we'll see you all after the holidays. I don't have a trial anymore. Whee! So I'm available to some extent, at least, unless I just decide to sleep for a while.
Well, I'll make sure I send you some links. How's that?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to strive in January to actually do like a rewatch of the entire Zach Anderson trial.
Please do.
And if I do,
Wilhammer Media has the audio cleaned up from that trial. So Wilhammer Media, I will get you that in.
Yeah, send me a DM or something with that, and because I want to be able to kind of be a participant in the discussion, but I honestly, folks, I hate to say it, but I can't feel like I can have an informed decision unless I watch every minute of the trial proceedings. Otherwise, I'm just making shit up, but I'm not going to do that. So
yeah,
I'd be interested to see if you had a different opinion than basically the rest of us.
I don't expect I will, because a lot of people I really respect all have the same opinion, like a miscarriage of justice. So I expect that's where I'm going to end up. But I have to do it from the original source material.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I will send you the link via Twitter DM, because he has the audio remastered and everything, so you will probably hear it more clearer than what?
He's a sound wizard, Veilhammer.
Yeah.
He is the sound wizard.
I don't understand how he does it, but
thank God he's in our corner. Thank God he's in our circle.
Yeah, and so everybody go over to Veilhammer Media and subscribe to him. So because he has a lot of trials, audio remastered, put out there. Any true crimer or law tuber who wants to go through old trials and stuff, Veilhammer Media, make sure he gets monetized so he can get something out of this. Because he does this on his free time. I don't get it, but good for you.
He was able to fix sound issues live and broadcast it live so that others could stream it in good quality sound.
He just got another subscriber from me.
Outstanding.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. But I will send you the link to his Zachariah Anderson trial via Twitter DM, so you have it. Yeah, that's it for me. I will see you all
I'll say goodnight
tomorrow.
Valhalla, great seeing you. Nick, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Folks, stay safe out there.
Yeah.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry, Nicholas. I feel like we kind of took over your stream a little bit there.
I have no issues with that. It's always great to have, because otherwise this would have been a 45-minute stream with few humorous interactions with me. Now it's a 2.5 hour. Yeah, let's just have some fun. And I think both me and the audience appreciate this, because most of them are still here.
Well, we did have some good discussion, and I think I think that's always important. I think good discussion is the key to good endings, right?
Yeah. And I will be sending folks over to Runkle of the Bailey for his Monday night fun day thingy he does. But thank you all for showing up. Thank you to Branka and to Val. We are not related.
Contrary to popular belief.
No, I mean...
It's pretty close, man.
Yeah, it's scary close. It's scary close. I mean, yeah. Okay, everybody. Thank you all. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.